good, y'all? Welcome back to another Sport Exposure podcast. As you know, we're here to celebrate our triumphs and learn from our defeats, as well as creating a safe space for student athletes, past, present, and future. And we are exposing our sport journeys to enhance the next generation of student athletes. Today, we have a yoga instructor, Mrs. Rylan Harrison here. Hey, y'all. She is here to express the importance of yoga and mindfulness in the student athlete or just athlete community, period, because that's a space that we don't talk about much, y'all. So we're here to talk about it. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So I am Rylan Ashley. That's what I go by online. So you weren't wrong.
I'm sorry. I was about to say, I got Instagram in my head.
You good. I'm Mrs. Harrison in the streets, but online I'm Rylan Ashley. I'm a movement and mindfulness coach who focuses on really helping athletes enhance their recovery and performance by using yoga and mindfulness to add into their toolkit. My husband and I, Sean Harrison, Mr. Be Great, we own Be Great Fitness in Newport News, and he's a sports performance coach. And so as a part of his programming, we've added in our Mindful Athletes program to really enhance recovery with meditation and yoga, etc. So I'm excited to be here.
Sure. And you also have a sports background as well.
I do. I played basketball. I actually started basketball kind of late. I think I started like seventh grade. And it's just because I was super tall, really wasn't interested.
That wasn't anything.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll just, you don't even have to know how to play. You got it. We just need you. And I continued to play 9th through 12th grade. So I'm originally from Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay.
And played the private school sector, Bishop O'Connell. So I played in the WCAC conference back then, which reigned some really high performing athletes. Jasmine Thomas, I played against her. Lots of heavy hitters in that conference.
Okay.
And then I played volleyball too, which I was really good at, but I stuck with basketball. For me, recovery was really important when I played because I was always on the training table. Bad knees, bad ankles. It was always a competition to see who could get taped up more, either me or another wrestler. And so I didn't go on to play in college just because of my injuries. I was just tired of being taped. And so that was my background. And so now what I do is I help athletes use yoga and mindfulness to really lengthen their limbs, reduce injury, and just increase their mental resiliency.
For sure. And how did you get involved in that?
Well, let's see. My yoga journey started in college. I went to ODU and I used it to help stay in shape. Because I was not playing. I didn't want to play intramural just for risk of injury again. And so it really helped me kind of maintain my weight and my mindset and it made me feel like I was still an athlete. And then after that, I continued to practice after college. And then I really got into it in 2012 when I was experiencing a really bad breakup. Breakups, they're horrible, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yes, exactly. And so my mat was my constant. Just sporadically was going to classes. And then it just helped me kind of regroup. And then after that, guess what, y'all? Another bad breakup.
We stretched that out too.
Stretched it out. And that one really just was like, okay, I need to go back to my mat, but I wanted to do more with it. I wanted to take a training. And so I did that here in Newport News. It was a 6-month training and I had a breakthrough, not a breakdown, y'all, but a breakthrough during the training because certain poses help you release emotional blockages. You have a chakra system that goes from your pelvis all the way up to the crown of your head. And the hips are where you hold most of your emotions. And so when I had my release on the mat, I was releasing childhood trauma, releasing people-pleasing behaviors, negative thought patterns. And it just made me realize like how many people who look like me have not experienced this. I have a mental health background. I've been in community-based mental health for 16 years and mainly work with children and seeing them grow from middle school to adulthood, seeing, okay, if they would have had this when they were younger, how would their life would have been different? And so still loving sports. I'm a big sports head, like Sundays, Mondays, and Thursday nights, football is on, basketball season, whatever. And so I'm thinking like these kids who I dealt with, some of them are really good at sports. Amazing. But if they would have had the tools to emotionally regulate, they would have gone further and been able to come up out of their circumstance. And so here we are. Sports and mindfulness go together.
Yes. And talk about some of your experiences with athletes now.
Yes. So currently I'm the assistant coach, or one of the assistant coaches for Menchville girls varsity basketball team. Shout out Menchville. And currently just sit on the bench as a buffer, like a mindfulness buffer, not only
That's
to how you can, exactly how you can maneuver in the game, because what about that player who isn't hitting their shots? How can we get that confidence back? What adjustments can we make? We do guided visualizations before games, and we also do visualizations after the game, so that we're not taking stuff from the game home. And then also I've done
really
some,
dope.
Yes, girl, I love it. And they love it. I didn't think they were going to like
Tell
it
me
at first.
exactly what that looks like. Guided visualization.
So they go through their warm up, locker room time before the head coach comes into the locker room. What I do is I have them sit, get real comfortable, have them close their eyes. We do a little bit of breath work. So deep inhales, deep intentional inhales and exhales to release any nerves. And then in the game, during the visualization, they visualize what it looks like for their shot to go in, what it looks like to have them rotate in defense together as a team, what it looks like what the first half is going to look like, what's the score going to be, how many points are we going to beat them by, what is the one thing that you want to make sure that you do well, because in practice and preparation, there's always certain things that each player has to work on individually. Right. And so after the visualization, we talk about what do we need to do as a team. What does that look like? Because defense, we all know, love in basketball, right? Offense sells tickets, defense wins games, right? And so defense, what do we need to do? And so what happens? We go out, we evaluate. Some of them need a pep talk on the bench. And then halftime, like, okay, how are we visualizing this? Active visualization and incorporating that. A lot of time athletes stray away from yoga and mindfulness because they think it's just chanting and mudras, but it's not. There's active mindfulness stuff that you can do. So in practice, it might be walking meditations, which not only activates your mind, but activates your hip flexors, which we know in order to be springy, your hip flexors have to be in shape. And so it's just a lot of different techniques during practice, in a game, on the bench, that I incorporate for them, and just being a constant. With women's sports, my head coach is really big on having a positive female role model on the bench.
It's needed
to see a reflection.
Right.
And also one of the main reasons why I got into yoga, right? A lot of yoga instructors that I've experienced, they play ocean sounds and they don't look like me. And not that to knock it at all, but I need some Erykah Badu and some Janae Aiko in my sessions. And I want y'all to feel like, I need something that I can vibe to. And so having that relatable experience for them young is a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
So from your point of view and dealing with all these athletes in different levels, what improvements have you been able to see?
Wow. Where do I start? So I'll start with my high school athletes and I'll get into my college athletes. High school, increased focus in the classroom, increased emotional regulation, being able to identify where an emotion is coming from and not operating from it. Sitting, say, hey, like, this is where it's coming from. And if you don't know where it's coming from, you text me like, hey, I need to work through this. Like, this is what's going on. The focus on the court, being able to stay locked in, because a thing that I think a lot of people don't realize in connecting sports and mental health is they stay in a fight or flight mode, which is unhealthy for your nervous system. There's no like in between. And so in a game, you're fighting or you're flighting, right? Trying to figure out, what do I need to do? There's no break. And so when they have a break in real life and they're not playing, that's when the breakdowns come. And how do I identify that? What does that look like for me? And then who do I call? And so I'll say for my high school athletes, they have access to me every day. And so, Coach Rye, I need you. Say less. What we got going on? I need you, but I don't feel like talking. Bet. We can just sit. My college athletes, one of them, I've talked to her. She is blossoming. Someone who didn't like to talk. Like, I had to pull teeth for her to talk to me.
I've been there.
Like, and not because she didn't trust me, because she didn't know how to verbalize her emotions. Right. And so now I'm like, sis, what's going on? Like, checking in, you playing well? I'm good. Like, my roommate and I had an issue and I was able to tell her, like, we're not getting down like that. Great. Whereas before she would just let stuff ride.
And I don't think we see the the importance of that, because I was also one of those kids that didn't start talking till later. And a lot of stuff that I spoke on, even now when I start telling my story, I'm like, okay, you went through all of that? Yeah, y'all wouldn't have known because I didn't know how to verbalize it.
Right.
And that was a huge part of my healing. Just learning how to speak, like learning how to tell people how I'm feeling, learning how to communicate or let somebody know, because as athletes, we're expected to be so strong. We're expected to put this mask on or get through it, get up. What you crying about?
Right.
And that reverts over into real life situations. And we're talking about our Black and brown athletes. It's a lot of stuff that we go through.
A lot of stuff off the court. Like basketball is an outlet. It's an outlet. But the thing is, like, being like real talk, how many of our athletes are going to go to the next level? Like, you might love it, but do you love it enough
to... percentage is less than 2%.
Exactly. So, but do you love it enough to really put in the work to take it to the next level? Number one. And number two, if you don't, who are you outside of that? And with the female athletes, high school wise, they struggle with that. Like all you know is basketball. And then if you don't make it to college to play, what you gonna do? Who are you? What do you like to do?
And that comes a whole load of it. Emotional stress, mental stress, like, and it makes it hard to move through life.
Exactly.
Because if I'm putting this jersey on majority of my life, and then I take it off, all the fame, all the support, all the articles, everything that I had that because of this basketball is no longer there.
Exactly.
And how am I supposed to maneuver through that? And you can't. We feel like we can't express it because like we've been this person for so long. Now we're literally stepping into a whole new identity. Right. And sometimes that causes an identity crisis.
Exactly. And the reason why mindfulness early is perfect is because we address that. Like, what do you like to do? Who are you? What are your real struggles? How do you deal with that? And my college athletes like are flourishing because I started with Menchville. This will be my 3rd season. So they've been with me for 2 years. They are prepared. They are prepared to know who to reach out to. If I'm not feeling like myself, I need to do a check-in. And if I don't trust anyone on campus, you're still connected to someone that you can trust and do virtual meditations. To see them flourish into young women and not just be little girls. Like for the ones who just left me, I'm like, oh my God, like you're actually a young lady now. You're confident. And male and female athletes are very different. Like very different. And trying to be the bridge and bridge the gap between coaching staff who are mostly men and young ladies. Like my coach is great. My coach is great because he knows like, Rye, you got him, whatever you want to do. Like whatever you want to do. We do team meetings. We have another one coming up this weekend, but like, okay, what are these female issues we need to figure out? Because what we're not going to do is have drama, because you know female teams have a lot of drama sometimes.
A lot of emotions.
A lot of emotions.
A lot of
they're growing up, and so how do we handle that with my collegiate athletes? I did a session with Spartan Legion. It was 200 of them on the field. It was the dopest thing. Big shout out to NSU. It was probably the highlight of my year this year, honestly. Seeing them and it was during their camp. So before school started, and you have a lot of freshmen who are coming in.
Trying to figure it out.
Where do I fit in on this big thing? Where do I fit in here? And the band is no different than a competitive sport, right? Because to see them maneuver those instruments, remember choreography, and have to do PT, it's a sport.
I watch drumline.
Exactly, right.
That's a lot.
And to be able to manage emotions, manage your drum major, being hard on you because they want the lines specific, or being away from home, being away from your support system, or trying to figure out how to maneuver as an adult, because transitioning from high school to college is challenging.
It is.
They're not on you in college. You don't show up to class. Ain't nobody checking for you.
Right.
You just fail. And so understanding that there's gaps in sports, in just the care of an athlete as a person. These are people. They're students first, athletes second. And so you have to give them skills in order to function. And that's just my main goal. I've worked with kids for a really long time. And what I will say is we come from our generation growing up, like, do as I say, not as I do. And no one is really showing them how to do stuff
the right way.
And you want to know why? Because no one showed us how to do stuff. We're learning on the back end. Like you said in your journey, you're learning on the back end how you should have handled some things.
Absolutely.
My goal is to, number one, share my struggles that I've gone through as a female athlete, as an adult, as a woman, as a Black woman, period. to share them. So it gives other women permission to share theirs, empower them to share their story, and to figure out, okay, what's working for me and what's not working for me. And the younger you start that with athletes in general, the better off they'll be. You know, that's just what my passion is, to help them figure it out so they don't have to take the road that I took. For sure.
So let's get into the overall importance of mindfulness and yoga for athletes. So you can start with mindfulness.
Yes.
Because we don't tap into that at all.
We always are focused on the skills training and the physical aspect. So championships start in your mind.
I like that.
They start in your mind, y'all. Anything you want to win in life.
Defense.
Well, I mean, they do. They do. But when it gets down to that last quarter and you are dog tired and you're the star player and you played the whole game, your body is going to fail you if your mind is not in the game.
It's crazy you said that, but I'm gonna let you finish, because the championship that I wanted to meet at, it's a picture of me in the paper crying.
Because your body was...
And it wasn't crying because I was happy. I was crying because I was physically exhausted. Mm-hmm. My body gave up on me like third quarter. Mm-hmm. And pushing through that last quarter took everything out of me. And that's why I was crying. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna let you finish, but that mindfulness is so important.
But that was an emotional release. That was your body releasing, right? You holding on, and that's that fight or flight we were talking about, right? So your championship starts in your mind. The moment you believe you can win, nobody can take that from you. Nobody. And what our kids are lacking these days is mental resiliency. That's where you have the F it, I'm not doing this no more, or you bucking at the head coach, or you skipping class, or you're just doing stuff wilding out of control in college, partying, partying, all that stuff.
Do whatever you want to do.
And so you got to be locked in. But what does locked in mean? If you are in control of your mind, nobody can move you. And so the importance of that in a game is, are you going to be able to fight through the refs not making the right call? You getting fouled and pulling on your jersey? You getting a cut, you bleeding, your finger might be dislocated.
Elbow to the jaw.
Anything. Like, are you going to cry? Or are you going to be like, I got this? And mental resiliency is not pushing through. It is, I know I'm capable. I'm capable. I got this. And being able to get the job done mentally in your mind first. Your mind starts everything. If you believe it, you can achieve it. I'm a firm believer in that. Your body will automatically follow. And so in sports in general, especially student athletes, they give up when stuff gets tired. When you down 5 and it's a minute left in the fourth quarter in the state championship, what you gonna do? You gonna break down, or you gonna tap into your strength?
Up here,
right. Because if, at the gym, we have a lot of athletes who have never engaged in our style of training, where we start from the ground up. So Sean takes your shoes off, we break you down and build you up from your feet. And so you gonna give up? You gonna give up when you wobbling and your muscles are fatiguing and you're shaking, or you gonna push through and you gonna fight? Competitive sports is all about resilience. And then that mental resilience transfers into your actual everyday life. So when you're failing, or when you don't understand, or when your parents are tripping and you got some home stuff going on, you're going to tap in and be like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm in control of myself. Right? Because what about foul trouble, right? You know that the ref makes the wrong call, or somebody fouls you and you want to pop off and punch somebody in the face. Can you control yourself?
Some of us can't.
We can't. And we got to learn that. And as far as the physical recovery, the injuries that I've seen in the athletes in this area, because 757 is full of talent, right?
Flooded with talent.
But what happens when you get injured because you're playing year round? AAU.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. It does not stop. So you're in AAU. You might play multiple sports to stay in shape. You might play football, you might play basketball, you might play baseball, track, all of that. So what happens when you don't implement physical recovery? When you don't do leg recovery system or sauna, or you don't stretch? Your body will tense up, and tight muscles breed injury. You're not able to have that fluidity and movement. What happens when you roll your ankle in a game and you out for a high ankle sprain, but you haven't been working on your feet? Yoga is about building you from your root to your crown chakra. There's a chakra system from your base to the crown of your head. And it's about balancing all of those, or rather creating harmony, because balance isn't real. Harmony is what you should be aiming for. And so creating that harmony within your body to understand how it moves, where it's tight, and more importantly, how to mentally release those emotions where your muscles are tight, because tightness in muscles is just a representation of your emotional distress.
So you mean to tell me that me releasing my emotions play a part in my physical performance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your lack of every chakra. So I'm gonna drop some yoga knowledge, right? So the 7 chakra systems. So I'll explain them all. Your root is at the base of your pelvis, and that's your foundation. I am balanced. I am harmonious. I'm grounded. Then you have your sacral, which is around your hips. Mm-hmm. I am creative. That is where all of your creative energy comes from. So your creativity on the floor, your creativity on the field, whatever sport, whatever your field of play is, that's where your creativity comes from. I am confident is your solar plexus, believing that you can achieve what you set out to achieve. Your heart chakra, I am loved. You're cared for. You don't have any boundaries around there. Then your throat chakra, you speak your truth in real time. You are not shy to say your feelings. Then you have your third eye, which is right here. I'm self-aware. I know what I need to work on. I'm not hiding from my flaws or the things that I'm really great at. And then your crown is at the top. That is purple. That is, I know what's best for me. I know what to do. Many athletes have blocks in several of these areas. Several. More so the root, the lower 3. So the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus.
We can't get up here unless we start
Hello.
with the root.
If you build a house on a shaky foundation, it's going to fall.
Right.
And so most of my athletes lack the confidence in their abilities. Most of my athletes have trouble releasing their emotions in their sacral because of stuff they've experienced in childhood. If you think about some of the stuff that you might have gone through in childhood or myself, but that makes sense. I don't feel balanced because I didn't feel balanced growing up.
And that's an amazing realization a lot of us don't get till post-grad or post-sports, because even the things that going on my healing journey, and I'm saying it's ongoing because we never stop healing. Yes. But I didn't take that on until I graduated. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things that I went through in college as a student athlete, mm-hmm. I'm still carrying with me many years later, because I was never given that space to release it. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the things that student athletes go through often on, like behind the scenes, mentally, emotionally, what do? We bounce the ball through it.
Right. But what happens?
We run through it. And even in that process, I don't stretch well. I was telling you before, I didn't take stretching. I didn't take that serious till not too long ago.
So let me ask you this. Did you not take it seriously because it was uncomfortable?
Can I be honest? Mm-hmm. My coaches didn't prioritize it.
Right.
Like, of course, they tell you to stretch, but they're not really telling you, making sure you're doing the right things, making sure you're taking time, making sure you're breathing, which is important. Mm-hmm. So my coach was worried about us. Hurry up, we got to get to practice. So we're rushing through stretching to get to practice. Right. So can you just talk about the importance of stretching, period?
Yes.
Stretching accurately, properly.
So let's
before
talk
and after.
Right. So let's talk about dynamic and stagnant stretching, because a lot of yoga for athletes is mobility. That's all that it is. And so before practice, before a game, active mobility, active stretching is necessary in order to warm up, to prime your muscles. Just like if you think about you cooking in the kitchen, you prime, like you marinating your meat, priming your meat, you're priming your muscles for movement. You cannot play with cold muscles. You have to warm them up. If you are not sweating during your warm up, you have not warmed up your body efficiently. You have to prime it for play, because what happens if you don't prioritize it, if you think about it, if you didn't practice before a game, would you be able to effectively engage and play and score? Probably not. Right. It's the same thing with stretching. If you do not constantly do it, when you get into the game, you're going to be not fluid in your movements. Think about a defensive stance. So there's a yoga pose that helps with that called garland pose or malasana. It's a yoga squat where you're literally getting down in a defensive stance, opening up your gate, your groin, and your hip flexors. You can't slide. You cannot slide. You're going to get beat every time in the paint if you do not warm up. Period. And afterwards, you have to come down. You should do stagnant stretching. So sitting down there doing a seated leg fold or something like that is very helpful to bring down your heart rate, to let your muscles know, okay, we can calm down so you won't get a cramp. There's so many things in terms of yoga and mindfulness and stretching that should be implemented by coaches in order to preserve their players. If you look at a lot of coaches who have a lot of injuries on their team, it's because they don't take recovery or stretching seriously. And in looking at what you just talked about with your coaches, they didn't have it. And so if you think about how like sports have been around forever, right? And what has been passed down, everything has been passed down from coach to coach to coach to coach to coach based upon their player experience and based upon their coaching experience. They're just passing it down to you. And if you think about in life, what happened with your parents? They passed down what they experienced. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even fault your coaches for it because it was passed down to them. But if you look at the style of coaching now and how it's evolved, and you look at the coaches who are successful in the sport that they are in and not, it's because they've grew with the times. And if you want to preserve your athletes, coaches, if you want to make sure your star players stay in tip-top shape, you need to implement mindfulness, yoga, and other recovery modalities in order to make it to a championship.
Mandatory.
It's mandatory. If you want longevity, if you look at some of the greats in NCAA, I'm going to just say women's because I love women's college basketball. If you look at Gino Auriemma, you look at Pat Summitt, rest her soul, you look at Dawn Staley, some of the greats who have created dynasties, like been around for a long time, they take it seriously.
They're not skipping any steps.
No, not skipping any steps. And you're talking about conferences making it imperative that there's some mental health recovery component in there, not just for players, but for coaches too. Like
sports consumes our lives.
Yes.
Literally. When you think about working in sports, and one of the reasons I got out of corporate sports because it doesn't stop.
No.
You get to the office at 7:30, you probably don't leave till 9:30, you do it all over again every week.
Right.
If I don't have any mental space in there for Michaela, or any time that's carved out for me to just sit and be, I'm gonna lose my mind. And I've been close to it.
Right. Right. And it's because it's nonstop. You're in that state of constant fight or flight. When you're working in an environment where sports is ever changing, there's always a game. There's always a game on TV, regardless of sport. And you have to figure out a way to maneuver. And there's a place for yoga and mindfulness in sports for a reason. There's a place because there's several professional athletes who are OGs who don't play and are on the street now. And we know who I'm talking about. And they're implementing the help now, but what could you have done for this person when they were in high school? You know, it's a major component of longevity in your athletes, and they're people first. Like, get to know your athletes first. They're not just
humans.
They're humans. We're all
else.
humans.
Right.
We're all humans having an experience in this thing called life together. And so what we have to do is we make sure that we set people up for success in life.
And that's including mental and physical health.
If you have your mental health, you have if you don't have it, you have nothing. You have nothing. And the importance of vulnerability in coaching staff, like talking to your kids or your athletes about this is what I went through and this is what I wish I would have had, gives them permission to say, hey, coach, I'm mentally not here today.
And that's an important step that a lot of coaches miss because they're so stuck in winning games, winning championships. What about how your kids are doing? Like when I was working in those spaces in collegiate sports, I used to always make sure before we talked about anything else, academic, sports, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like, how's your family doing?
Yeah.
Like what's on your mind this week before we got into that? Because that plays a part. Because if you're telling me that what I've learned with these kids is building that relationship with them, they come to me for anything.
Mm-hmm.
With its academics, important stuff, like all of that's going to come. How can you expect a student athlete to feel comfortable with you coming to you about a personal situation and you never ask about it?
Right.
So why would I even feel vulnerable enough to come to you and say, well, hey, my mom is going through this. Hey, my dad's going through this. Or this happened with my family last night and affected my play. And some coaches are not open to that.
They're not. They are not. And I will have to say, I have to big up my head coach, Adrian Webb. He is really big on that. And if it's not in his wheelhouse, he passes it off to the coach that he knows that player has a relationship with. One thing I'm huge on is, like you just said, who are you as a person? What do you like to do? What are some things that really light you up outside of the sport? What do you want to major in college? Like this last group of seniors that I have, it was 5 of them. And a major component of getting them ready to leave, I met with them often. Like, you ready? Like, what you scared of? You know, and most of the time is that confidence. Like, am I really ready? Can I do this? We've prepared you. We've talked about some ways what you can do to implement in your wheelhouse when you're not with me. Because Coach Rye is always here, but I physically can't be everywhere. I can't be at Virginia State, JMU, Morgan State all at the same time. So what can you do? And so the prep work that went into the guided visualizations during games, the breath work exercises in practice, the team cohesion meetings, the yoga, the individualized recovery plans that we made for them. Like, it wasn't...
What did that look like?
Oh, girl. So tryouts, preseason work, knowing what your weaknesses are. There's always a mindfulness assessment. Sean does his conditioning assessments where we figure out where your weaknesses are. And I do the same thing for mindfulness and yoga recovery. If I know you have tight hamstrings, there's some stretches you need to do because you probably have knee pain. And knowing where the body connects and where you're experiencing pain is a really important part of recovery. What are some things that are going on at home? Are you need help in school? Like you beefing with your parents? Like what are some mindfulness blocks? What are those obstacles to make you not be able to tap in when it's time for you to tap in? Because what my head coach needs is to be able to pull anybody from the bench at any given time to rotate when we need you in a game.
Right.
And so find those mindfulness obstacles, find those physical obstacles, because those are linked. The physical and mental blocks are linked. And what can I get you to do when you're not with me to work on your hamstrings being tight or your gait or your neck and shoulders? Like if they have a tight trap or a tight lat, their shot's going to be off. If they have no wrist flexion, they're not going to be able to put their hand in the jar and hold their follow through. Like it's all connected. Our body is full of energy meridians that are all connected. And it really wholeheartedly starts with the mind. It starts with the mind. And once you figure that out, that's it. And so looking at them as an individual, there's individual pain points. Yeah, we're a team, but how can I make you be the best version of yourself for what we need you to do here? And then also what you want to do in school. So we've linked a couple of our athletes to some community resources for internships, or even offered, like, if you really want an internship with us, like you can, if at any point you need some hours, you need a recommendation letter, whatever you need. And one of the main things, we've had an athlete, he was a football player who had so many concussions, he can't even play anymore.
I've seen that a few times. And so a big part of his recovery from that and figuring out what he was going to do was yoga and mindfulness. We had them do some videos and stuff for a presentation we were doing. And he said it's what saved his life. Like, he did not know what he was going to do without football. He's a quarterback. Major position. Like, you've been a quarterback, got a scholarship, and, he's been able to still stay in the sport. But what do you do? Who are you outside of being a QB? Scary. Right. And so giving them tools to do that self-discovery, because you change during transitions, and letting them know that change is inevitable. Transitions and setbacks, and life is going to life you no matter how good of an athlete you are. Exactly. Athlete or not. Life is going to life. And you think I give them a prime example, of Kobe. Like Kobe, his family, to the sport world, no, you think people are going to live forever. Like, I'm so shocked that Kobe is not here. Right. And so thinking about when he passed, what his wife, his kids, even now when I see him, just my heart sinks. What do you do? What do you do when a major component like that changes? Or when especially in that way. Yeah. You look at how do you cope? How? What do you pull on when no one is around, when your support system is not there? When you have major changes in your life, what do you use? Life is going to life you. And so
the main thing about sports and mindfulness is instead of athletes running away from it, because I asked you, were you scared or or did you not do it because you were uncomfortable? They don't like stretching because it's uncomfortable.
And a lot of athletes are not flexible.
They're not because of all the stuff they've experienced. And so yoga makes you feel those things, right? And so they're not comfortable being uncomfortable. Life gives you stuff so that you can be comfortable being uncomfortable. Once athletes master that, right. So how are you going to take it to the next level? Again, same situation. You down 5, championship game, a minute left. It's a 2-possession game. What you going to do? Where are you going to pull from your source?
And what is your source?
Exactly. What is your source? What is your source? And understanding the power that lies within you choosing to tap in. You always have a choice to tap in.
For sure.
I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to empower you, but you got to tap in. And it all starts with our high school athletes. Like it starts young. Like even you think about the babies, like the AAU. Like I do them too occasionally. They can't do everything.
I play 5 games a day.
Girl,
looking back, I don't know how I did that.
How?
Physically, literally 5 games a day.
See, me, I had started so late playing, and I was injured most of the time. So my parents were like, nah, girl, like we got to keep you ready for regular season. But I can't, I like looking at them like they're tired.
Exhausted.
They're tired.
Sleeping in the bleachers, sleeping on the floor.
And they got schoolwork to do. And they have lives to have and boyfriends and girlfriends. And then they're
still trying to figure out who they are.
Stuff at home. And then I think about too, like the athletes with the stuff at home, like some of them are the first generation college students trying to get to college. Or you have that one kid who's super great and everybody banking on them making it to the league. And they crumble.
What does that do to them?
Right. They crumble from the pressure because they don't know how to manage. Like, what are we not doing as people in the sport who don't play anymore, who are in various fields? What are we doing? What are we doing to support the next generation of athletes? Because if we don't, they're not going to make it.
That's why we're here to expose this stuff.
Exactly.
We're here for that. So we're speaking to a student athlete at any level. What do they need to incorporate into their routine?
One, I would say start with an exercise called thought dumping. Thought dumping is something you can do in the morning and the evening, really establishing a solid morning and evening routine with thought dumping. And what that is, you set a timer for however much time you have, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes. You write down everything that's on your mind. Doesn't have to make sense. Nobody's checking for spelling, so nothing has to be spelled right.
Slang, none of that.
You write it down. And if you have nothing to write about, I don't know what to write. And usually the downloads will come. Once that timer goes off, you rip it up, you throw it away, you don't reread it, and you eliminate any intrusive thoughts before you even start your day. Before you go to bed, do the same thing so you're not sleeping with intrusive thoughts on your mind. If you had a bad practice, your coach hollered at you, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, y'all beefing, whatever, you release that before you go to bed. Those are the pillars of your morning and evening routine. As far as physically, stretching in the morning, doing some static stretching or even some mobility in the bed, some hip circles, taking a walk outside. My favorite thing to do is walking meditation. I myself, as a teacher, have a hard time sitting and meditating because of my back, several injuries from when I was playing. So I walk outside, no music, just simply notice what's around me, my awareness.
I'm glad you said that because some people think meditation has to be, like you said, like it doesn't have to look like that.
No, you take a walk and you just simply notice the air, the birds, how cold it is. Just bring your awareness to the present moment. Mindfulness is about being aware in the present moment, not in the past or the future, but the here and now. And so really focusing on that. Another thing that I would definitely do is to operate out of gratitude. Gratitude is the attitude. It's huge because it could always be worse. And someone always has it worse than you. And operating out of a space of gratitude and really being grateful for another day, for another opportunity to play.
Air in your lungs.
Air, food, all of your needs being met. Operating from a space of gratitude always gives you the abundance that is supposed to come to you.
I got to my lowest moments just off of gratitude.
Yeah.
Waking up, just say thank you.
Very simple.
And I always tell myself, no matter how low I am, it's always somebody that has it worse than me or 10 times worse than me.
Absolutely. And in that moment of gratitude and saying that to yourself, it's not minimizing what you're going through. Like, because oftentimes people were like, oh, well, someone always has it worse, but your feelings are still valid. Absolutely. What you're going through is still valid, but understanding that you're grateful for the lesson. And also habit stacking. So mindfulness, habit stacking. So a lot of people don't start mindfulness routines because they either don't know what to do or like, I don't have time. If you add a mindful habit on top of something you already do, like brushing your teeth, driving.
You make time for what you want to make time for.
Right. You can get up in the morning. I am capable. I am beautiful. I am strong. Affirmations, something easily you can do. I used to write them on my bathroom mirror when I was going through some challenging times because I would read them out loud to myself. Londrell is an artist that I love. He has affirmation music that has affirmation intertwined. So y'all check him out. He is amazing. He has gotten me through some difficult moments. Londrell, he's amazing. And then also understanding that you are a person first, athlete second, and that you have to be mindful of where you are mentally every single day and reach out for resources. So if you don't know how to figure it out, find that one person, that accountability partner. Find a teammate, a coach, somebody in school, one person who I'm not feeling too good today and I need to process this. And understanding it's okay to not be okay and to not know what to do. That's the biggest thing.
For sure.
That's the biggest thing.
From what I'm hearing with all of this, I believe it starts with vulnerability, not with other people, but with yourself.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I feel like that's something I'm still overcoming, but even just with this space here, I lead with my own vulnerability because I had to be vulnerable with myself and my own story and the things that I went through.
Right.
In order for somebody else to feel comfortable, come sit on my couch and do the same thing, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with mindfulness. Like in order for me to address how I'm treating you, I have to be able to address it on the inside. Like, where is it coming from?
Exactly.
And a lot of those traumas, a lot of those habits we pick up from just naturally, from being an athlete, from playing a sport for so long. And we don't even realize we're picking them up. Like everything is just, we don't have an outlet.
Right.
We don't have an outlet. And that starts with our mind. It starts with our body. It starts with just learning how to do new things, back to being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I just want you to express the importance of being vulnerable, not only with yourself, but starting with yourself, but with your coaches or maybe with that one person that you feel safe with.
Vulnerability is a strength. It is not a sign of weakness. And everyone is going through something. Everybody is going through something. No, you might feel like you're the only one. Like, it's just me. Why is it always me? It's not always you. And the moment that you share what you're going through with that trusted person, whether it be your coach, another teammate, somebody in the school that you're at, your advisor, your guidance counselor, it allows them to help you in the way that you need to be helped. A lot of times coaches struggle with helping their athletes because they don't have a roadmap.
They don't know how.
And that vulnerability gives everyone a roadmap. Okay, you going through this? I'm going to send you here. You going through this? I'm going to send you here. And if you wait to the last minute, we can't help you.
Right.
We cannot help you. We've all been players at one point. We've all struggled with stuff. We all still struggle with stuff as adults. But understanding that you have to be vulnerable and allow people to help you. You have to allow the help. You have to allow individuals to see the deepest, most softest part of you. Because that is really where the blooming season comes. There is a yoga quote that says, no mud, no lotus. And a lotus flower is a flower that blooms only in swamp-like, dirty, murky water. And so one thing that I tell my athletes is that when they're going through a really challenging time, you tap into that gratitude and know that it's your blooming season. Like, something's really about to pop off if you're really struggling and going through stuff. But in order to get the help, you got to open up. The help is there. And just sharing stories. Like, I have a lot of our athletes come back and talk to the kids who are in high school now. We had a couple come back over the summer and just talk about like, yo, you really need to tap into this because I struggled first semester. And if I didn't have what they gave me, I probably wouldn't have been here. Like, it just blows my mind, the level of stuff that they go through. I mean, and some coaches don't know. Some coaches don't know. There's athletes who self-harm. There are athletes who harm other people. There are athletes who are homicidal, suicidal every single day. And it's because they don't know how to cope. And with that bridge in mindfulness, and what I really appreciate about my role is I can say, hey, coach, like they struggling today, can like back off a little bit. Or can I pull them to the side and just talk to them for a second? Can I do this with them instead of them doing this? And it's all whatever you want to do is fine. Like recognizing the signs. And I attribute that to not only my struggle personally, but to working with kids for as long as I have. We're all just walking each other home. Like honestly, we're all just trying to figure this out. And it is your job, athletes. Your wellness is your responsibility. It's not a privilege. It's a responsibility that we all have. Everybody involved in sports, from admin all the way down, because what negative energy is just transferred from one person to the next.
Right.
If people aren't taking care of themselves from the top down, everything folds.
For sure.
So now when like teams have really bad seasons, they're like, well, I wonder what their coach is doing. I wonder what their GM is doing to help with this.
Because that's a mental strain in itself.
Exactly.
For everybody.
For everyone. Because your job is on the line.
Exactly. Yeah. And finally, to wrap us up, Sport Exposure is all about exposing sports stories, exposing things to inspire the next generation of student athletes. So what would you like to expose about sports? It could be about yoga. It could be about mindfulness. Just something that athletes, you feel the athletes need to know.
Wow. If I could, I would love to do like a little short visualization, if that is okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're watching, I just want you to close your eyes. Take a nice big deep breath in through your nose. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Blow it out of your mouth with intention. And I want you to visualize yourself standing in front of a mirror. The reflection that stands before you is not of yourself now, but who the person is that you are supposed to be, the person that you are destined to be. Take a look at this version of yourself. Notice any colors, emotions that may arise. And I want you to recite the following affirmations after me. I am capable.
I am capable.
I am brilliant.
I am brilliant.
I am a masterpiece and a work of art at the same time.
I am a masterpiece and a work of art at the same time.
Take one last big deep breath in. Exhale out the mouth. Come back to the present in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow. I feel relaxed. I feel relaxed. I hope somebody gained something from this. I'm super relaxed.
Good.
Super relaxed. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for just sharing the importance of mindfulness and yoga in the athlete community. And I hope some student athletes gain some gem from this. Make sure you take care of your mind, take care of your body, take care of your soul, and take care of your wellness. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.